Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's take up the daily quiz for today. The first question: India and Russia jointly hold membership of which of the following groups? BRICS, SCO, RIC, EAEU. The correct answer is option C, 1, 2, and 3 only. See, India and Russia are founding members of the BRICS organization. Russia is a founding member of the SCO or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and India became a member of the SCO in 2017. Then, of course, India and Russia are part of the RIC trilateral, which includes Russia, India, and China. But, however, India is not a member of the Eurasian Economic Union, which is a regional economic grouping of Eurasia that includes Russia as well. India is considering signing a free trade agreement with the Eurasian Economic Union, but India is not a member of this group. So this eliminates 4, and hence option C is the right answer. This question was taken up because we have a related article in today's The Hindu newspaper. This article refers to the relations between India and Russia has reiterated its commitment to supply the S-400 missiles to India despite the CATSA sanctions of the United States. During a recent interaction between the foreign ministers of India and Russia, both the countries have reiterated their commitment to fight terrorism by using platforms such as the SCO or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. That's the reason why a question was taken up on the various groupings involving India and Russia. However, during this interaction, India and Russia have diverged on their Indo-Pacific strategy because Russia has expressed its opposition to groupings such as Quad, that is led by the US, which also includes India, whereas India's strategy towards the Indo-Pacific region is driven by alignment with like-minded countries such as the US. Now let's look at the second question. Which of the following statements are correct? Right to pursue higher education or professional education is a fundamental right under Part 3 of the Constitution. The above right is covered under Article 21A of the Constitution. Both the statements are incorrect, so option D is the right answer. See, Article 21A of the Constitution under Part 3 deals with right to free and compulsory education, that is primary education, of children in the age group of 6 to 14 years. Fulfilling this fundamental right is an obligation of the state. But neither this article nor any other fundamental right under Part 3 provide for the right to pursue higher education or professional education. Now let's look at the third question. Which of the following statements are correct? The International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights covers labor rights, right to health, right to education, and right to an adequate standard of living. It was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly and is monitored by the UN Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. India and USA have signed but not ratified the covenant. Amongst the given statements, the third statement is incorrect, so option B is the right answer. See, the UN Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights draws from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it was signed in 1966 and came into effect from 1976. It covers a host of economic, social and cultural rights, including labor rights, right to health, right to education, and right to an adequate standard of living. It was adopted by the UN General Assembly and it is monitored by the UN Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. But the third statement is incorrect because the United States has signed the covenant but it has not ratified it. However, India has signed and as well as ratified the covenant. See, these two questions were taken up because of this article in The Hindu. According to this article, the Supreme Court has observed that the state, that is the government, is obliged to facilitate access to education, even higher education or professional education, even though Article 21A doesn't define the right to professional education. In a case related to the right to pursue professional education, the Supreme Court has recognized that under the definition of Article 21A, right to pursue higher education has not been provided for. It has basically acknowledged that right to pursue higher education is not a fundamental right. But however, under the commitments that India has made to the United Nations International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, the state or the government is obliged to at least facilitate access to higher education. Though it's not a fundamental right, though the state is not mandated to facilitate higher education, the Supreme Court has observed that access to professional education should not become a part of government largesse, meaning it shouldn't be a privileged service being offered by the government, and instead, the state should be obliged to facilitate access to good quality higher education, even though it's not a fundamental right. Let's look at the fourth question. Which of the following statements are incorrect? The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, is a free trade agreement which was signed in November 2020. Members include all the 10 members of ASEAN: China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. India is set to join later this year. Amongst the given statements, the third statement is incorrect, so option C is the right answer, because the question is asking you to identify the incorrect statements. See, RCEP, or Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, is a free trade agreement that was signed recently in November 2020. The negotiations for this free trade agreement went on for several years, and even India was a part of these negotiations. This free trade agreement was championed by the ASEAN countries, that is, all the 10 Southeast Asian countries, along with China, South Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. But due to differences during negotiations, India decided to walk out of this agreement, and recently India withdrew from the RCEP. And in November 2020, the remaining countries, they went ahead and they signed the RCEP free trade agreement, which is going to come into force very soon. This question was taken up because, according to this article in The Hindu, Singapore's foreign minister has called upon India to reconsider joining RCEP and even the CPTPP, or the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. He has made this statement while addressing the Raisina Dialogue, which is India's premier diplomatic conclave that is organized every year by ORF, or the Observer Research Foundation, in association with the Ministry of External Affairs. The Foreign Minister of Singapore has called upon India to reconsider joining the RCEP and as well as the CPTPP, which is the successor of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which included the United States as well. See, just like RCEP, the TPP, or the Trans-Pacific Partnership, was a proposed free trade agreement which would have included several North American, South American, and several Asia Pacific states. While RCEP was seen to be led by China along with the ASEAN group, the TPP was seen to be led by the United States. While the negotiations for these free trade agreements were going on between 2012 and 2016, there was intense competition and rivalry between the RCEP and the TPP. But in 2016, following the election of Donald Trump, the United States unilaterally withdrew from the TPP, thereby weakening the TPP in comparison to the RCEP. But following the withdrawal of the US, the other countries of the TPP, which included countries like Canada, Mexico, Peru, Chile, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei, they transformed the TPP and replaced it with a successor organization known as the CPTPP, or the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. So today, if you compare the RCEP with the CPTPP, yes, you do find a few common members in the Asia Pacific region. Today, the US is no longer a part of the CPTPP, and this is yet another free trade agreement that few countries are pursuing in the region after the RCEP was signed last year. So Singapore, which is a part of both RCEP and CPTPP, has called upon India to reconsider joining these agreements, as India happens to be a key market and a key economy in the Asia Pacific region. Now let's take up a question from the 2017 prelims paper. Which of the following are envisaged by the right against exploitation in the Constitution of India? Prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor, abolition of untouchability, protection of the interests of minorities, prohibition of employment of children in factories and mines. The correct answer would be option C, 1 and 4 only. See, abolition of untouchability is covered under Article 17, which is a part of right to equality. And protection of interests of minorities is covered under Articles 29 and 30 as a part of cultural and educational rights. But under right to exploitation, we have two articles, that is Article 23 and 24, and they respectively cover prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor, and as well as prohibition of employment in children in factories and mines. So clearly, option C is the right answer. Now, coming to the fact of the day discussion, let's talk about the Manas mobile application that has been launched by the Principal Scientific Advisor as per this press release from the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. See, yesterday, the Government of India has launched the Manas mobile application to promote mental well being across all age groups. Manas stands for Mental Health and Normalcy Augmentation System. This application was endorsed as an idea by the Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council as a part of a national program designed to promote mental well-being of the citizens. Under this initiative, the Manas mobile application has been developed and it is a comprehensive, scalable and a national digital well-being platform designed to promote the mental well-being of Indian citizens. This app integrates the health and wellness efforts of various government ministries and initiatives, and it brings together scientifically validated indigenous tools with gamified interfaces that are developed or researched by Indian institutions in the field of mental health and mental wellness. The initiative was taken up by the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, and it was executed by NIMANS Bengaluru, Armed Forces Medical College Pune, and CDAC Bengaluru. The application is universally accessible and delivers age appropriate content and as well as methods and techniques to promote positive attitude that focuses on mental well being. The app has been designed on the basis of essential life skills and core psychological processes, and it will cater to people of all age groups. But the initial version which has been launched, it initially caters to the mental health needs of people in the age group of 15 to 35 years. Slowly, the program would be further expanded to cover people of all age groups. So with this, let's conclude our discussion for today. Thanks for watching.